Welcome to Shift Talk, where we talk about the workforce challenges and trends that manufacturers and those in the supply chain industry are facing every day. I'm your host, Adam Raymond, and in each episode, we'll bring you fun and in-depth conversations with industry experts and thought leaders who are on the front lines of frontline work. I'm Adam Raymond here with another episode of Shift Talk. I've got Joe Suardi here with me, who's the Director of Talent Acquisition and Workforce Planning for RK.
Hey, thanks for having me. I do appreciate it. I'm looking forward to talking with you. I'm Joe Suardi. I'm the Director of Workforce Planning and Talent Acquisition here at RK Industry. RK is fabrication, manufacturing, facility services, but mostly a mechanical specialty contractor. Been in talent acquisition for about 13 years. I started out doing staffing for about 3.5 years. RK was a big client, came in there one day, and the rest is kind of history. Have both sides in-house and then also on the corporate side of recruitment.
Very cool. So typically we speak with folks who are in the manufacturing distribution world, but I thought it'd be really interesting to have you on because you are manufacturing adjacent, right? A lot of your projects are actually building manufacturing facilities, but it's an interesting amount of crossover in the challenges that you face and the industry faces. So I want to start with some of the industry trends you've been seeing as far as different skill levels, the lack of workers who are available, especially in the trades, and what you've been seeing over the last few years that got us to here.
Yeah, it's perfect. In addition to being a specialty contractor, we are a holding company of 7 different business units. So we do actually have manufacturing. One of our largest companies, Mission Critical, the first of its kind American-made manufacturing. So construction and manufacturing are all in the same when it comes to skilled trades. Either you're doing assemblers or welders, or you're on site doing plumbing, pipe fitting, and sheet metal. So to answer your question about what we're seeing is right now we're feeling the squeeze of the last few years of those baby boomers getting out of the industry. They're sitting right now, they go up to 78 years old, and I think down to 60. In the next 5 years, you'll see most come out, and probably by the next 10, they'll be about 99%. That generation was really involved in the trades and manufacturing. I think 1 in 3 of that generation were in manufacturing, speaking of that. And what we're seeing now is that this new generation is mostly millennials in the trades. And we don't even have all the Gen Zs in the trades yet. They're getting started. There was a Wall Street Journal the other day that they're interested in. I think they called them the tool belt generation.
I saw that.
So we're hoping that they start getting in there. But that's the biggest squeeze we're feeling right now. The challenge is we have so many people leaving, and then we also have this new generation where for every one person coming in, 5 people are leaving. And you're seeing a different skill come in that maybe wasn't their identity. When you were a plumber in the boomer generation or even later Gen X, you were seeing, I'm a plumber, that's who I am, that's my identity. And now you're a father, a mother, sister, brother, you're into video games, you're into movies, you're into streaming. Your identity isn't so much your vocation as it was in the past. And so you're feeling a little bit of that gap of people who, I don't want to say take pride, that's not the right word, because I think everyone's prideful in their job. But it's not their whole identity as it was in the past. You're feeling the squeeze of these people coming in. There's a very low supply and a very high demand for these people.
Right.
And an example I share is, just for the sake of math, someone starts their career at $10. 6 months, it's really not the right fit for them, but they need welders. So a company calls them, a recruiter, and says, hey, 6 months experience, why don't you come work for us?
Right.
Now they're making $12 because they're not going to leave for the same money. And now they're making $12. They stay there. They like it. Then someone else called and they say, hey, come work for us. You have 2 years of welding experience, 2.5. I want you to work for us. Now they're making 15. So this worker has gotten a 50% raise over the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But their skills haven't increased
50%.
And so these companies have these very established supervisors, superintendents, people like that who know, when I was starting out, this is how much I made, right? And this is my raise. And
yeah,
exactly. So they expect this level of skill and they expect this level of precision for the pay they're paying.
Right.
But that may still be a $12 an hour welder they're paying $15 for. So you're feeling that gap of the differentiation between skill and what you're paying employees. So Boomers leaving, very high level pay for a different skill than they were used to.
Yeah, and that's speaking of pay, because it is again very similar to manufacturing, where the entry level positions can pay in the sub $20 range, right? But very quickly, that's the trick, is getting them to see very quickly, especially in specialties like welding and plumbing, where can they end up in 4 to 5 years from starting pay
Yeah.
range?
So here at RK, a lot of my examples are obviously going to be anecdotal too, where I've been at for almost a decade, but
Right.
and in Denver as well. And it comes down to we actually the minimum we pay is $20.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is we have an apprenticeship program where they'll come in for $20 an hour, and every 6 months they're eligible for up to $1 raise. So you're seeing that increase, and then you get your journeyman license. And so once you get your journeyman license, you have the opportunity to make 35 if you're a foreman level in the 40s, things like that, because you have a skill that is so marketable and so high demand, but it's also licensed.
Right.
And what that means, obviously, what's really important is prevailing wage jobs, is certified jobs, things like that, where we do have to have that credentialing to have certain people on those jobs. You nailed it. All you have to be is 18 with a high school degree and stay out of trouble before you get
Yeah.
there. And you can start generational wealth. You could start a true career in just 5 years. You're not going to college. You're not
Right.
paying $100,000 in debt. You're with us, earning while you learn. We give you a $250 toolkit right when you start to get you started.
Nice.
We give you 75% of your associate's degree is taken care of in that program. You only have to
Wow.
take 5 more classes.
Right.
Now you're a
done.
journeyman plumber. 5 classes later, you're a construction management associate. And then you can go in the operational world and work your way up. One of our vice presidents of field management right now, he's been with the company over 20 years. He started the apprenticeship program.
Really?
There's obviously tons of opportunity to go from apprentice to journeyman to foreman to superintendent and oversee these large projects. But it's just consistency. Our president, he says, if you stay, you play. That's because he played college football.
Right.
It's the same thing, right? All we're
Yeah.
looking for is someone to commit to the program. Consistency is key, obviously. Show up every day with a good attitude, and if you stay, you'll play. You'll get a lot of opportunities here.
Yeah, it is interesting that generationally we are seeing a huge difference in my generation, where it was you're going to go get a job out of college, you're going to work in corporate and move your way up and work hard to start. And especially Gen Z is more about, I think what attracts them to some of these jobs, especially in the trades, is I can go learn these skills, get my certificates, and then I can start my own business, right? Everyone's an entrepreneur, right? I'm going to be a
Yeah,
YouTuber, I'm going to own
absolutely.
my own business, but this actually is a path to making a living doing something on your own. Do you see that?
You nailed it. That's exactly. You see these up and coming high schoolers and grade school. They're watching YouTube nonstop.
Right.
They're the binge YouTube
Yeah.
creators and TikTok creators, and they're all millionaires, right?
Right.
And so they think at the snap of a finger, you're going to be a millionaire. But look at all those YouTube. They're all their own bosses.
Right.
They're all their own businesses, their brand. And so, absolutely, I think they're seeing on the news, online, that they're seeing Meta, Google, all these different tech companies do massive layoffs
Right.
for corporate jobs. Where if I learn a skill like plumbing, I'll absolutely have a marketable skill that one, I can start my own business, be my own boss. If I don't do that, I can at least do side work. They're not the ones having to do Lyft and DoorDash if they get laid off. They're the ones who can go around the neighborhood, handyman services. They can do
Yep.
TaskRabbit, and they have a higher level tangible skill that frankly AI can't
I was just going to say,
replace. Yeah, right? Like the day that you see a bunch of robots building, climbing, hammering, putting pipe fitting, plumbing, sheet metal, maybe then, but right
Right.
now it's such a skill that can't be replaced.
no, at that point, we're all out of a job.
It's exactly.
It's like,
Yeah, it's iRobot, right?
yeah, exactly. That's what I think is attracting younger generation. Also, just the satisfaction in seeing something that you work hard on come to life. You build it. You see it all the time in manufacturing. It's like, oh, I get to build microwaves or vehicles or tools. But in construction, it's the same self-fulfillment, right? Of like, I helped build this facility.
Yeah.
I've got skills that if something happens at the house, or I can help, like you said, I can help a neighbor, I can even make a job out of it and make really good money. And I think that trend is only going to continue, right? I mean, there's such a massive gap in demand for these jobs and the labor pool that has these skills, right? Isn't that a huge challenge?
Yeah, it's so funny you say that. Recently, they said by 2030, there's going to be 2 million open manufacturing jobs. In 2 years in construction, it's 750,000. So we're already feeling it now, right? It's only going to get worse. Like we know by next year, that is like the date where the fertility rates dropped. And that we know that
Yep.
it's
It's coming.
objective data. So it's coming that there's not enough workers. Now we're talking about not enough workers in the skilled trades. We talked about the job hopping a little bit, and that's what we're seeing is these workers that is they don't have to think about, oh man, I need to stay at this company for 10 years because my benefits for my kids and my family are on the both parents are usually working. So you're seeing that they can make some decisions that are more based on themselves. So when you're talking about this great shortage of people, you need to have upskilling. When you're seeing right out of the recession up until about 2018, everyone was like, recruit, you're going to see 100 million new recruiters. And then, wow, we have all these new people. Now we have to get the most out of them. And so from about 2018 to about 2023, you started seeing a lot of managing. How are we going to manage this potential, all these new people? And then we're like, okay, we have all these people. We figured out good processes for them. We were innovative. We made the role as simple as possible. And now, okay, so now we have these. Now we have to upskill everyone.
Yeah.
So you're seeing this change in American worker generation. It's not so much about recruiting. It's not so much about managing. Not to say those aren't happening. Still, obviously, those must be true. But right now, it's upskilling the worker. A lot of our business units have dedicated trainers now where they actually are just working for that individual business and training those employees directly because not only do they have to train them to do their jobs, we also train them to get better. 'Cause that's what we're seeing is this new generation, they don't want to just come in and do their job.
Right.
They're not all chasing CEOs like we were. They're happy to be at a certain level and be content there,
Yeah.
but they still want to get there. And it's either we teach them or they go somewhere else and then they just get all of our work from training.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I'd love to dig into that a little bit because, again, there's a lot of overlap where you've got this generational wealth of knowledge that's soon to leave either the factory floor or the construction site. What you guys have done an incredible job of.
Yeah, of course. And a lot of it's the apprenticeship program. So right now we have 200 apprentices. They're around a little over 25 years, started by our patriarch and founder, Ron Kinney. So we have plumbing, pipe fitting, sheet metal, iron working, steel fabrication, like welders. We also have some shop sheet metal and shop piping in our Xanthia location, which is our headquarters, and also our services. So when you have those opportunities, we have different instructors. There's a lot of on-site work. We have a skilled lab where they can learn things like that. So you're getting a lot of these people, but ask any tradesperson. One of our core values is mentorship.
Right.
And when you have these older generation, that is their legacy. That is something that they take pride in, is helping that next generation of worker. And so you're always going to see a little bit of commitment there. So to lock in that tribal knowledge and make sure it isn't gone once they leave, is to make sure that there is a mentor, there is an opportunity for them to share that knowledge, right? But the one thing we have to see is right now, everyone can agree the American worker is different. It is an undeniable truth that everyone agrees on.
They're built different.
Yeah, there's still, absolutely. Yeah. So we have this group of people, the modern American worker is different and everyone agrees. Yet it's still a struggle for us as employers to change the way we are.
Right.
So everyone's changed, but we're not going to change. So we're not going to make it easier on the person. We're going to make the role easier.
Yeah.
And so once we can start understanding if we can make the culture and it easier for the worker, we're going to start seeing a lot more success than just simplifying processes for the role.
No, I love that. That is probably the biggest challenge every manufacturer and distributor we work with faces is they boil it down to, well, we can Six Sigma this and make the processes simpler and get everything down to, we only have to do these 3 steps to move it down the line. But it's really about culture. And one thing I want to touch on, getting more people into this industry, specifically women. Like, I know construction has an even lower percentage of females in the workforce than manufacturing. What have you seen over the last few years that are efforts to try to change that?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because we partner with a great group out here at Connecting Colorado, and you've always heard banging on the door like, we need, shop and schools again.
Right.
You see it on everywhere. And they actually do. They have 19 schools that participate in a construction program in high school.
That's awesome.
So we partner with them. We go to their career fairs. We go speak to their students, things like that. But you're right. Women predominantly, it's not been an industry that has had a lot of women present. You'll see them in the office, things like that.
Right.
And that's when that 11% comes from. But if you actually boil it down to trades, it's only about 3.6% skilled tradespeople are women.
Yeah, 3.6%. That
Yeah.
yeah, manufacturing, their stats are right at about 29%, and I guarantee I've been on enough, shop floors that that is an inflated number because 'cause they're including everybody who's salaried.
3.6.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
It,
is so there's nowhere to go but up, right? But you still have
well,
to you
absolutely.
gotta create an environment though where they don't feel like, "Oh, I don't belong here because I'm the only person on site that's a woman." Have you seen culturally that's had to change to make that easier for women to come in?
That's opportunity. We
Mm.
talked about it a little bit earlier. These supervisors and hiring managers, they want this turnkey employee. They want
Right,
someone to come in who can weld, who knows how to do plumbing, piping, sheet metal,
right.
who knows how to do welding, electrical, things like that. So they want them to come in and be automatic and know what they're doing. We just admitted,
That
that 96% of the workforce isn't women.
right.
So how are you going to get these women in without entry level role?
Yeah.
But how are you going to deliver to your clients without experienced people? So it's this conundrum that they have that you have to create opportunities. You have to have opportunities for women to come in and learn the trades and things like that. It's great for our apprenticeship program. We always have an opportunity to get them in there, but you have to make more of an effort to give pathways for them to come in the company and actually learn the skill. But it's a simpler stuff. It's having form-fitting PPE that isn't dangerous and big and frumpy. It's about creating a culture that isn't targeted towards women. We mentioned it a lot in manufacturing. We always say male dominated industry.
Mhm.
It's not, doesn't have to be dominated.
Right.
I know a lot of women that are successful business owners in construction. It's more about male populated industry
Mhm.
than male dominated. And
I
so
like that.
when you change that kind of to go more to a gender neutral
Mhm.
type language and also have an environment where they can ask questions freely, they can have a little bit more of that one-on-one time with their supervisor to express what they're seeing, you're going to have success. And so what are you going to do differently? As we've talked about, the workers changed. What are you going to do differently as a business, as an employer to get them in? And that's what you have to ask yourself.
Yeah, and then highlighting, I think you touched on it earlier, where they need programs where it shows people in middle school, in high school, hey, these are careers with people that look like you that are successful doing this type of work. I think it gets ingrained in us that every image we see of a construction worker is a guy, right? And so getting younger, more diverse populations into that industry and then doing a good job of branding that and schools and telling kids, hey, you can make six figures doing this type of work without an expensive college degree or get one paid by your employer. That's a pathway that I think a lot of, especially high schoolers, just it isn't put in front of them. It's either go to college, go get a degree in accounting, or go work at distribution center throwing boxes around. And there's a lot of opportunity in between those two things.
There is, right? And you got to shake them. That's the thing, though. We do have trouble retaining some of these apprentices. You mentioned it perfectly. Yeah, we do pay you while you're working. We
Right.
do give you free school. We do give you tools. We do give you raises every 6 months. As an apprentice, you can be on those prevailing wage certified payroll jobs. You have all these opportunities that the regular employee doesn't have. Yet they'll go work at Discount Tire for $1 more or $2 more because it's right then and
Right.
there.
Exactly.
And if you give it 5 years and you pass your journeyman, the sky's the limit. And like I said, you want to shake them and be like, what are you doing? What are you thinking?
Yeah.
This is your future. Like, it's just one of those things where the dollar somewhere else can be appealing. And we have a lot of boomerang
Yeah, I'm
apprentices
sure.
who go out there. But I'll tell you, our average first year is 26 years old. And so what we're seeing is they go
Interesting.
out, they try some different industries. Maybe they try college or community college. They say, this isn't for me. And then they come in. But to get the 18-year-old into the apprenticeship program, so they are graduating with a journeyman by 23, is going to be a challenge. And that's where you integrate those high schools, as I mentioned, saying, hey, save your time. It's like compound interest, right? The sooner you start, the better,
I know.
right? It's the same thing. The
Wish I
sooner
had
you start in
learned
the
that
trades, the
earlier.
better off you'll be. Exactly.
Looking 5 years ahead, I think we're going to have to see a sea change in how the education system sets students up for success. industries, whether that is manufacturing, technology, into the trades, because a lot of the things they're learning in high school simply aren't going to apply, especially as AI does take over some of the more repetitive jobs. Why would you have kids spend years and years of learning how to do something that you're going to have a machine doing in the next few years, so that they don't have to wait till they're 22, 25, so that they can start their earning potential right out of high school? I think we're going to start seeing a lot more trade focused primary grade programs instead of them just being relegated to, oh, this is something you have to wait until after you're done with high school.
Yeah, you nailed a lot of it. What kind of your thoughts there? We've seen about an almost 19 to 20% increase in 2-year degrees year over year. Right now, we do take students from trade schools and they can test out of their first year of apprenticeship. So instead of a 4-year program, it's a 3-year program.
Nice.
So you can take that first year as a community college and then you get your bachelor's in plumbing over those next 3 years.
Right.
It's not as competitive that way anymore. You do have a little bit of arrested development and people taking some time off.
Yeah, it's true.
They're still living with their parents at about a 50% clip after high school and college. And they're trying to figure out what is the right path for them. And they all want the perfect job. You remember your 20s,
Right.
when you got your first job, you're like, this isn't everything that I expected it to
Right.
be. And I won't be a millionaire by 25 like I hoped.
know.
And so it hits you pretty hard. And I think there is still that, and maybe more, because we comparatively were looking at people slightly older than us to look up to. Maybe it was the 30-year-old boss you had at 22.
Right.
These guys are looking up towards 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds who are millionaires, billionaires. And that's where they're feeling that pressure. I'm behind,
Yeah.
even if they're doing really good. We mentioned it a little earlier, is we need these new employees to feel welcomed, that the culture is accepting. The culture is easy to digest. We have to be flexible. We're told in manufacturing and construction, they're skilled workers. I've been saying it the full conversation. They're just as skilled as everyone else. Yet we don't have the same flexibility for them.
Right.
If they have to go to a soccer game or coach their kid's basketball game, they don't get that opportunity
Nope, they get
the
a
way an
point.
office worker does. Exactly. They get a point, they get a mark, they get enough
Yep.
of them, they don't have a job. And obviously an office worker, you can go catch up on those hours later at home or extended. You can't really go in the plant by yourself and work a couple hours later.
That doesn't work.
But maybe if the next day you
Yeah,
can come in earlier
exactly.
or later. And so if we're going to modernize how critical that supply is and how skilled they are and how important they are, we have to treat them like that. And we have to make it easier on the employee and not the role. You're not going to process and innovate and simplify a role so much that someone's going to be like, man, my job's really easy. I'm never leaving.
Right.
But if you say, hey, this allows me to do the things I do love. We mentioned the video games. If it's watching sports, being with your kids,
Right.
the things that you're passionate about, you're going to be able to keep people. And if that's a flexible work schedule, if it's a 9 to 3, so we can get more women in the workplace, because women are predominantly caretakers of their relatives or their children, and they can drop off and pick up from school. And maybe they work 30 hours a week instead of the 40 hours, and you get 4 people instead of 3 to match up that 40 hours over those 3 people. Then you do it,
Yeah.
because we are going to feel a squeeze with the amount of people not having kids, the amount of people who are having kids later, that you have to be attractive. And that's the free market. If you don't make those changes, you won't last. And so you have to think to yourself, what do we need to innovate to be a successful organization?
No, you nailed it. So
Totally.
this has been great. I really appreciate you coming on to the show, sharing your thoughts with us. I would like to ask, like, how could people get a hold of you if they want to follow up and connect?
Yeah, so you can follow me on LinkedIn. I post a lot on there just about economics and industry trends. Just Joe Suardi, and then work for our case. You might find me there. That's definitely the best way to reach me. My email's on there as well.